Some really cool news here. Original Sliders cast members talking to NBC about revival. If you're not familiar with Sliders, it was a very, very awesome show back in the 90s on Sci-Fi. Yes, it was low budget. Sometimes it was cheesy, but the first two seasons they covered some really intellectual what ifs. Whereas the showrunner in season three, he had to leave due to his father being sick. If I recall correctly, he had to leave due to his father being sick, and his father passed away. And during the time he was gone, Fox decided they were gonna go a whole different direction with it. They were gonna, you know, they got rid of most of the writers. Writers that refused to be yes men and do whatever they wanted. They fired them and they replaced them with a bunch of yes men. And what they wanted to do was take it in a different direction. They wanted to do this knockoff movie of the week style show, and they wanted to put in a sort of a villain that would be reoccurring, a sort of villain of the season type thing, a villain of the week type thing. A villain of the season type thing, while they do a knockoff movie of the week type thing. And they knocked off Tremors, Jurassic Park, The Island of Dr. Monroe, several things during season three. I still watched the show, but I did recognize that it took a different turn. It took a different direction as they outed original cast members in favor of younger ones, for sex appeal or things like that. But the first two seasons were really great. They covered some actually really incredible ideas, and what the show, it essentially was a what if. You got this group of people jumping dimension, trying to find their way home. Meanwhile, they enter worlds where it's like, okay, what if this happened in history instead? What if, say, Hitler won? What if something didn't happen? What if something did? What if you made this choice? What if you didn't make this choice? And they covered all kinds of interesting things. It had a kind of liberal perspective, but it was pretty damn neat. They covered what the world would look like, say, if brains were favored over brawn, and it was interesting to see the perspective of intellectualism, praised over athleticism, and they did that very well. They also did some interesting episodes, such as episodes that covered what happens to the men. Now, this would be a very important episode during this current day and time. They covered an episode of what happens when men are an endangered species, how women treat them. They keep them in this facility where they just use them they make them work out and all that stuff to stay healthy, and they just sell their semen off, or they give the highest rich privileged people access to them for sex. And the men are very sexualized and abused and treated like pieces of meat, and it went as far as even the toys in the store, they were different. They weren't like, if I'm the whole thing of them, they were selling like action figures. If I believe right, it was like action figures marketed toward women instead of like men, and all kinds of interesting things. I'd have to rewatch some of it, but they covered a lot of interesting stuff in the first two seasons, and it was really, really likable. This was the kind of show that I'm shocked wasn't in everything. Like, they didn't make video games of it, they didn't make movies of it, they didn't, sell toys of it and all kinds of stuff, because this seems like that type of show that would leave that kind of iconic impact, that cultural mark or whatever. Anyways, I'm getting off point. So the original Sliders cast members, Jerry O'Connell and John Rhys-Davies, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, are in talks with NBC about a possible revival of the 1990s sci-fi series in the age of TV being dominated by adaptations, reboots, revivals, and sequels, it makes sense that Sliders has finally entered the conversation. Premiering in 1995 on Fox, Sliders was never a huge rating smash, but quickly amassed a fiercely dedicated, if not exactly massive fan base. In the early days of the internet, Sliders and its many journeys to different parallel worlds were a hot topic of discussion, and episodes were dissected on various fan websites. Unfortunately, Sliders had problems with consistency, mostly due to issues behind the scenes. Season 1 and 2 were pretty short for network TV, only running 23 episodes combined. Then Season 3 saw the series get reworked in an effort to improve ratings with fan-favorite characters Professor Maximilian Arturo, Rhys-Davies killed off and replaced in the cast by Kyrie, I can't even pronounce her name. She played Maggie Beckett, a character clearly designed with the goal of trying to add more sex appeal to the show. Season 3 also saw multiple ridiculous episodes that attempted to copy whatever was popular in movies at the time, including episodes about zombies, vampires, and getting attacked by snakes. Fox canceled Sliders after Season 3, but Sci-Fi picked it up for Seasons 4 and 5, which saw even more cast member turnover. Finally, the show ended on an infuriating cliffhanger. However, Sliders might finally get a definite conclusion after all, as Rhys-Davies tells Flickering Myth that he and O'Connell have recently been in talks with NBC about reviving the series. Here's his full quote. Jerry had been pestering me for a number of years, and we're actually talking to NBC at the moment to see if there's any possibility of rebooting the series. They're looking into the basic question of who actually owns it. At the moment, we don't seem to be able to find that out. I would do it again if just to show how it should be done. It could have been the best show on television. It could still be on the air. I think maybe if we got another chance at doing it with the new technology, but also new stories, I think we could do something quite extraordinary. I wouldn't want to do it for the rest of my life, but I would do it for a season or two if it was right. While Rhys-Davies uses the word reboot above, the rest of what he says definitely points towards a revival with the original cast, provided they would all agree to return, and any legalities can be ironed out. One assumes O'Connell would come back as Quinn Mallory if he's been part of the talks. That leaves Cleveland Derricks and Sabrina Lloyd, who played Rembrandt Brown and Wade Wells, respectively. Beyond the cast, though, the revival would face a creative obstacle right away in deciding where exactly to pick up from. For those in need of a refresher, Sci-Fi's Sliders Season 4 and 5 saw Wade killed off and Quinn written out by combining him with an oddly different alternate universe double with an Arturo also dead. The only real path to reviving Sliders with the original cast would likely be to pretend Sci-Fi's seasons never happened and possibly even retcon most of Season 3, including the introduction of Maggie's character. This would no doubt annoy fans wanting a resolution to Season 5's cliffhanger, but it's undoubtedly many would be interested in the prospect of a revival with the Sci-Fi cast anyway. I would absolutely like to see the original four return. Now, you could say anything about that. I mean, you could say that at some point we got turned around and just started following a different group of the Sliders, because they had ran into many groups before of themselves, and you could say that the show just followed a different what would have happened to a different group of the Sliders, because there were more of this particular group sliding around the universe trying to find their way home. You could say that was, different ones, whatever. This could work, and it would be very awesome to see the originals return. And you could also, sum up that you could give a conclusion to how Season 5 ended, because Season 5, I watched the show all the way through, and it was really hard to get through the last season because everybody was gone except for Rembrandt and Maggie, and I was never really all that fond of Maggie. Uh, they brought in Jerry O'Connell's brother back in season 4, and he became a regular character. But season 5 saw uh, the brothers get scattered across the universe, and there was no real conclusion. O'Connell ended up merging this Quinn Mallory, ended up merging with another Quinn Mallory that they replaced him with a different actor. Um, it was just hard to get through. Rembrandt, the guy who played Rembrandt, uh, Derek Cleveland Derek, I believe his name is. He stuck around. The Crying Man stuck around the whole time. It was an awesome, amazing show. This is probably the kind of show that Tim Pool would have watched. This show meant so much to me when I was young. This show it was very much like I guess an X-Men animated series. The way they talked about indifference and stuff like that, and persecution. Just all kinds of different things. It handled all kinds of social problems, and different history. What would have happened if this played out differently in history, or that played out differently in history? I'm not sure how it would look in today's political climate because because Hollywood's version of injustice is really, really out there and very, very far off from what actual injustice is. Like the whole far left liberal thing, I wouldn't want it to be affected by that. I would absolutely love to see this show come back. And as it says, in here, it said somewhere that, somewhere in here, something I said, it made it sound like too that they were shocked that this thing did not get huge. Like this thing should have been absolutely huge. They should have been like video games, movies, maybe comics, all kinds of things. This thing should have been a very, very profitable thing to merchandise in all avenues, because this type of show, it's just incredible. And but after the first season, 2 seasons, it kind of lost its integrity. It walked it back a little bit in season 4, but they lost because Fox, it just wanted a bunch of yes men. It wasn't doing very good in the ratings, so they tried to make it a knockoff movie of the week type thing, and they brought in younger people for sex appeal, and just all kinds of things. It's sad it never got the conclusion it deserved, and it had a really diverse cast, as you can see too. See, diversity existed before Hollywood, and it was never a big deal. You had all these people were very different, but they were all smart in different ways. This Rembrandt Brown was the man of soul, the Crying Man, the entertainer. Wade was like a poet, and all of them were geniuses in different ways. Like in different ways, they were very geniuses, and it was just amazing. And it sucks the way it ended that it did. I really hung on to it. I'm like, let at least one of them have a happy ending, but you get a cliffhanger ending where Rembrandt Brown has to jump through this portal alone, and he doesn't know if he's going to survive what's on the other side, if it's their home, if he's just going to get lost and separated from everybody forever, or if he's just going to die immediately. But it was an amazing show. Pathetic ending to an amazing show. The last season was really, really hard to get through. Oh, man, this would be awesome. Comment down below if you've ever seen this show, if you like it, if you want to see it come back, if you're concerned how it will be affected by today's, politics, the way they deny they want to erase history, and the way they deny certain things. It's just, I don't know how this would look in a social justice world. But I just wanted to read that because I really hope it does come back, but and it becomes as big as it should have been. Anyways, like, subscribe, comment down below. Stay awesome. Rock on.